Hello and welcome to Engine Adventures review of this 1999 Jeep Cherokee. Those familiar with the channel will have seen this before. This is kind of the post-modification video, so I'm not completely done with it, but the suspension is kind of where it's going to end up at. There will be a few changes, of course, later on, but overall, this is kind of what we're looking at. Yeah, this thing, I'm surprised it's not articulating more. It does have the sway bar connected, so I think that probably has a lot to do with it. But these improvements are incredible. Most of this work was actually done by Crux 4x4. I didn't really have enough time to do both YouTube and modify the Jeep, so I decided to use the money from YouTube to pay someone else to do a lot of the work for me. But let's take a quick look at some of the modifications. So main thing here, frame stiffeners, just the center section. I have the pieces for the front and rear. These are from Iron Rock Off-Road. And then we've got, of course, the long arm suspension, and that is from Dirtbound. The Dirtbound just supplied the cross member here and the control arms. And then I just did a 3-link, so you can do a 4-link, and it has the upper mount on the other side in there anyway that I could run to the axle. That would be a later modification, of course. Here out back, we've got a Ford 8.8, and I do need a new drive shaft. Right now I've just got a drive shaft spacer in there. We'll get that taken care of at some point. Rear leaf springs, Ironman 4x4, and these ones are actually pretty good. So you can see there's what, 7 leaves total on there, 3, 6, oh yeah, and then one more there. So 7 leaves total, and they're a little bit stiffer than I would like, maybe, but when I was doing the high-speed off-road, I really enjoyed them. Skyjacker M95 shocks. I can get you the part numbers for all this stuff, but Skyjacker is sponsoring those for us at a discounted rate, so we still had to pay for them, but Skyjacker gave us a little bit of a discount on those. And you can see that the tire will rub in there just barely when it's stuffed. Out here, again, Skyjackers up front. Not sure why there's water leaking down out of there. Must have just been stuck inside. I think it's just water, maybe from the AC unit. Yeah, it doesn't smell like coolant or anything. Hopefully we're okay. Anyway, yeah, up front, anyway, the front truss there. Crux 4x4 did that. They ordered it on their own. We've got WJ knuckles here, and that allows us to run WJ brakes. And I went ahead and did WJ, what are they called? Spindles. So my wheel bolt pattern is different front and rear. I'm okay with that. I do have the wheel adapters on the rear, of course, and that allows me to run these Jeep Gladiator wheelies, I believe these are, wheels and tires. So they're 17-inch wheels wrapped in 255/75 R17s. It comes out to a little over 32-inch tire, and these are BFG Cam 2s. I'm not sure if I'll go that aggressive again or not. Probably will. We'll see how it works out. Then, of course, aux locker there in the front, re-geared front and rear to 455, 456 gears. Anyway, that's a little bit lower than most people would go, but that's what I did a lot of work. I created some spreadsheets, went through all the gear ratios. So at freeway speeds, it gets up, you know, at 70 miles an hour. It's 2,800 RPM. And it'll cruise at 70, 80 just fine. It's just you're a little higher in the RPM range, but when you get off-road, it really helps out by giving you that lower gearing, which you guys, anyone who's seen the channel knows that I love having the lower gearing. I'm curious through all that high-speed stuff. Doesn't look like I bottomed out and hit anything here. So this aux locker is a cable actuated system, and I bought their electric solenoid motor here to run it. So instead of pulling cable inside the Jeep, I just have a switch. We'll show you that. Anyway, I think that is the majority of modifications done. Of course, the JKS quick disconnects, which are connected right now. So we'll be sure and get a shot with those disconnected as well to show the difference in the articulation, because this thing will stuff a lot more. We had the sway bar off of it, and you can't really turn a ton when it's fully stuffed because it will rub inside of there. Front springs, I didn't talk about those yet. Metal cloak. These are dual rate, so you have this section here that's compressed and this section that is not. Let me see if it matters right now. I don't think it will. Just barely, so you can see the gaps in these. So that'll hold the spring in place. You can see it's actually kind of loose, but this area will expand quite a bit. It's a really low spring rate, and it allows that coil spring to stay in place and keep a little bit of pressure on it, give you a bit more wheel travel without having to worry about that coil spring falling out. One other thing, my front shocks are probably a little bit shorter than I want them to be, so that's not fully extended yet, so that's good. We still have a bit more down travel we can go to. But yeah, I think anyway, that's the majority of things that have been done. As far as the engine goes, just tune up. I haven't done anything crazy with it, and the rest of drivetrain, powertrain, that's all stock. All right, hopefully we don't lose the file again. So it just lost that last video clip. You can see with the sway bar disconnected, the tire is tucked up almost all the way in there. Back wheel's off the ground. So that's about as much as we're gonna get out of it. And if we look, the shock's not fully compressed, but we are hitting the bump stop on my hockey pucks there on the inside. Thanks to Crux 4x4 for tuning that to be almost perfect. So the shocks, as that bump stop compresses more, the shocks can compress a little bit more and not bottom out the shocks instead of the smashing on there. Anyway, the bump stop's working how they should, what I'm saying. There you go, there's a better shot of these springs. So you can see they're opened up all the way through here. It actually has quite a bit more travel to go, but my shocks are a little bit short. I am probably going to throw in one more hockey puck and get the longer set of shocks that are 2 inches longer. It'll give me more down travel. It'll limit my up travel by about 1 inch, but it'll give me 2 inches of down travel, which I think will be better in the end. Limiting the up travel will keep my fender intact, so I'm not ripping that off. And again, on this side, I bet it's rubbing now. Yeah, so it's rubbing now with the sway bar disconnected. It allows that little bit of extra flex, and it's rubbing down there. All right, hopefully we can get through all this before we run out of fuel. I think we'll be all right. So just in 2-wheel drive, and yeah, we're gonna see what we can do for this high-speed off-road test, and I was actually pretty impressed with it. So 20 is the goal for an off-roader, and we're at 20 right now, and it's kind of no problem. 25, definitely catching air through some of this. Maybe bottomed out, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean 25. It's surprisingly smooth at 25. I'm not, it's so weird, I'm like not even worried. Yes, this is definitely hard on the Jeep, but man, compare this to the previous video where it was bottoming out, topping out, couldn't get anywhere. Okay, I drove this the one way. I'm a little bit nervous about it because this thing's so old, but and there's a pile of bricks right here. That was a little unusual. So once we get past this pile of bricks, this is one spot I like to test kind of hard, but the bricks here, not gonna do that. Okay, let's go ahead and hit 20. 20 is the goal, and 20 is about where this thing can ride. So we're at 20 right now. Just under 20. There we go. Back up to 20. Makes me nervous. The spare tire is not tied down, but man, this worn out suspension is pretty darn smooth, and I guess that's what happens when it gets worn out. It makes it a lot smoother. And at 20 miles an hour, it doesn't bottom out. I went up to like 23 when I drove it out the other way, and it did bottom out one time. So honestly, it rides way smoother than most of the current vehicles, especially the current vehicles this size. It has a decent amount of wheel travel, but the up travel is really limited, and I did hit the bump stop on the up travel one time, like I said. But really, overall, smooth ride. Steering's good. Brakes are a little hard to push. Part-time four-wheel drive. I know I talked about this in a previous video, but this one has a full-time four-wheel drive. These two green positions, the two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive full-time, are you can drive on the road at any speed in those, and then the part-time one, 4 low and 4 high part-time, are obviously for off-road use, where it doesn't have a center differential. In the full-time mode, it has a center differential, and the part-time mode, it does not. Yeah, I can't even see here. We're in 4 low, first gear, and I'm on the brake, but I'm gonna let off in just a second. Well, the other thing I could do is lock this up. So there's the switch for the front locker for now. So I couldn't decide if I was gonna make a new panel here and use TJ locker switches, or I think I'll actually just put it right there. I thought this might be too ugly, but I think it'll be just fine right there. So, all right, so that was actually looking scary. It is registering on the speedometer, so, you know, 4 miles an hour or something, 3 or 4. First gear, 4-wheel drive low, and I will look up the crawl ratio. I don't even know what the crawl ratio is on this thing. But with the 456 gears, 271. Is that what this, I believe this transfer case is a 271. Anyway, to 1 ratio, and then your first gear. And so not bad. It could be better. I believe, well, there'll be a video of a truck with a manual transmission up before this one, and it definitely doesn't perform like that, but it does do just fine. And we have reconnected the sway bar, which on second thought, I should have left disconnected. I'm not gonna reconnect, or I'm not gonna re-disconnect it. We're just gonna drive this. We're in 4-wheel drive low, first gear, and we'll hit the potholes. And that's what I thought would happen. Jeez. Obviously I can drive around this and be just fine. And let's move up to a spot where we just get a better shot of what's going on. So, picking the right line, this thing will drive it all day. But we're gonna go right here, which is the exact wrong line, and I can't move from where I am. So we're gonna flip the locker on. Don't know if you guys can hear that. I'll get an exterior shot of that running. Just gonna ease into it. That was unexpected to be sliding in much. Of course, just the front locker, that becomes an easy task. And eventually this thing will probably have an aux locker in the rear. Aux did give us a discount, not a huge one, but big enough that made it worth it. Well, and I wanted aux. Let me rephrase that, because I was going to get an aux either way. But when I reached out to them, said I was doing some media stuff, they said, all right, we'll give you a bit of a discount, which was really nice of them. So I do love this locker. Again, Crux 4x4 dialed this thing in. So it drives excellent on the road. It drives really well off-road. The locker functions flawlessly, which you have to do a few little adjustments there, but really just an amazing job by Crux 4x4. Be sure and check out his Instagram, and I don't know if he has a YouTube channel. I don't think so, but if he does, anyway, I'll put links to all his stuff down below. This guy lives and breathes off-road vehicles, and not just Jeep. So I think he's actually a bit of a Ford fan, but he's got his own Jeep. He loves working on the older Jeeps, but for newer vehicles, I think he's a little bit of a Ford fan for trucks and stuff like that. But anyway, dude does amazing work. It's incredible stuff. Like, you hear horror stories of how bad XJs drive after you lift them and do all this stuff. This is the best thing this thing's ever driven. After all of the modifications that have been done to Jeep car, this thing actually cruises quite well. Yeah, it's noisy. It's always been noisy. The tires make a lot of noise. It's old, whatever. Hopefully you can hear me fine, because it does get pretty noisy in here. I have the cruise control set, and you can see I'm at like 2,700 RPM, a little bit below that, at 70 miles an hour. The speedometer is off by 1 mile an hour at 70, so 1 to 1.5 is about what I was seeing when compared to a couple of GPS units. It really just drives nice. You go over the bumps and whatever, it doesn't upset it. It doesn't have death wobble. It doesn't have any bump steer. Really does extremely well, and Crux 4x4 is the one that put all this together. I wanted the WJ steering style, so we'll go over all that stuff at some point. But anyway, even with all of these changes, it really drives better than it ever has for me. So I bought it, obviously, over 220,000 miles, or it actually might have had 218 on it, if I remember right. Anyway, I'm up to 223,600 now, and yeah, this is the best it's ever driven for me. You know, the new suspension instead of the old worn out stuff, and all new joints everywhere. The steering is still just, I mean, excellent for a vehicle. It's what is this thing, 24 years old now? It's a 99, so and with over 200,000 miles, I say it's driving really quite nicely. It does, I mean, it tracks straight. The roads are crowned, so it's going to pull to the right because the road slopes to the right. But anyway, it's really, I can't say enough good things about Crux 4x4. Just an amazing job. Be sure to check the links down below for them. All right, thank you for watching Engine Adventures update on this 1999 Jeep Cherokee build. We'll go more and complete with it, and I guess this isn't a build, this is just an off-road review of how capable it is now. So we're gonna do a full build video. I'll talk about all the pricing and stuff, what it would cost if none of the stuff was sponsored, apart from labor. That one, because Crux 4x4, him and I are good friends, but anyway, he does amazing work. Even if we weren't friends, holy cow, this thing is dialed in. I love it. So there's still obviously some stuff to do. It's getting a rear bumper eventually. My wife and kids struggle a little bit to get in, so we're going to be putting in some slider steps. I don't want those. I don't want added weight. I'm trying to keep this thing pretty lightweight. So we'll complete the build. Well, it's never going to be completed, but we'll do some more on the build. We'll do a build update. I'm going to take this thing and weigh it. I weighed it before I started all this. Anyway, there'll be a lot more information to come on this. It's pretty incredible. I love how capable it is, and it's not huge. So you look at other people, you go on Instagram, you'll see a bunch of Cherokees with 37s and 40s and 44s, whatever. Running 32's. I'm really loving this. So the tires are, I haven't done a ton, but I would say the tires are about as wide as I want to go at 255. A lot of people will run 285s or something like that. I think these are almost perfect, the 255. So I may step up to a 255-80 R17 instead of a 255/75. And there's even, I think Mickey Thompson, it's got some 255/85s, which you get about 34 and a half inches. Anyway, that'll take some more work, obviously. Maybe some bump stop changes on the rear, or clearancing, cutting the fender wells. But anyway, for now, this thing's awesome. I love it. I do have a bunch of new parts coming, but you'll have to wait for those. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Be sure to hit subscribe, ring the bell, so you get notifications when we post new videos. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, both about the Jeep and about the video. What do you want to see? This thing will probably end up at the sand dunes. We're gonna go to a place called Little Moab eventually, and maybe even get up in the mountains. This thing needs to be tested a bit further, so this was mostly just a shakedown run. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks again. Have a great day.